Hey guys, Reaver here. The answer is yes. The Overwatch 2 beta was actually really fun, and I think that the changes introduced are the much needed breath of life that the gameplay from the original game has needed for many years. I played the Overwatch 2 beta for about 3 to 4 days, and despite game crashes, console crashes, and 20-minute wait times for matches, I was consistently having fun and always looking forward to getting to the next one no matter how long the queue time was. So let's talk about the changes.
That is it!
We're gonna kick things off with the new tank, Junker Queen. She's equipped with a throwing knife that she's named Gracie, and Gracie can be thrown with LT. Upon pressing it again, you will recall the knife, and if it's stuck in an enemy, that enemy will be pulled towards you. Junker Queen also has a health ability that makes her This commanding shout will give her 200 bonus health and any ally within 15 meters of her 100 health. Junker Queen's ultimate, Rampage, will charge her in a straight line. Anybody hit is incapable of healing for a few seconds. She also has a unique passive. Whether you're stabbing, slashing, hitting somebody head on with Gracie, or getting them on the way back, you'll inflict the enemy with a wound that slowly damages them and in turn heals you. With all that said, I think Junker Queen is sitting in a fair spot. She doesn't feel powerful or headachy to play against, but she also isn't weak. She's very rewarding with the high-octane, brawly playstyle, and I think she's fun. Personally, I'm looking forward to playing her more in the live build. Next on the list is Orisa. Orisa was reworked in Overwatch 2 to fit the new Brawl playstyle. Halt has been replaced with a new projectile energy javelin. It works like Doomfist, where if you hit an enemy into a wall, they will receive extra damage and a small stun. She still has her Fortify ability, and in place of her barrier, she can now spin her javelin to block frontal attacks and will push back enemies. Orisa has a new ultimate too. In place of superchargers, she will now fortify herself, pull the enemies in the AoE to her position and slow them, and then begin building up a percentage bar that goes up to 500%. If you press the attack button at any point during the build-up, she'll let out a damage surge. Overall, I'm actually really pleased with Orisa's rework. I think that she felt very strong and simple to play, but she was also fun. These new abilities have just allowed her to do the same job as Overwatch 1, but in a more interactive and effective way, and I think she's going to be remaining at high level. Now, Doomfist has been changed from a DPS to a tank in Overwatch 2. His Seismic Slam now acts more like a Winston jump, combined with his previous DPS slam. And in place of his uppercut, he now has a frontal block, and as damage is blocked, your rocket punch will be powered up to hit enemies harder and farther, and you can hit more than one. With his ultimate left untouched, I have to say that going from DPS to tank has certainly made him feel a little bit weaker, but I don't think he's more than a couple of minor buffs off being in a good spot, and I can still see him working. Next up is Winston, and it's with great pleasure that I tell you that Winston got one change, and I think it's perfect. He is now a
Sniper Monkey.
But in all honesty, this ability is fairly useful. I don't think he'll be taking your Ash's DPS slot anytime soon, but it's really nice to finish off fleeing enemies without wasting jump. Just try to remember that not everyone is cut out for a dive tank. As for Zarya, she's exactly the same, except now she can choose to either use 2 personal bubbles, 2 outgoing bubbles, or 1 of each. This little change makes adapting mid-team fight or playing with certain team comps a lot easier in my opinion. This change also makes missing your bubble on that one teammate that won't stop rushing in with no brain a little less harmful, and you can use them back to back as long as they're both off cooldown. Overall, I think this is just a really positive change for Zarya, and I think that her juggle-intensive kit can now be a little bit more manageable.
This ends now.
Moving on to the DPS section, first up is the new character Sojourn? However the hell you say it, her kit is very heavy on mobility and DPS output. Your RB grenade is a projectile that creates a circle of DPS and slowing. And on your left bumper, you have a slide that sends you in the direction you're moving, and jumping at all during this slide will launch you into the air for easy high ground. Her primary fire charges up a secondary fire. The higher the charge, the more damage. Her ultimate is a continuous recharge of her secondary fire railgun, which can make for moments like this. I find that Sojourn's kit really promotes the brawling gameplay, and that if you use her mobility for either disengaging or going on some sort of flank, you can basically melt both the healers within a matter of seconds if you use your abilities correctly, and I love using that RB grenade at the choke and then just going on my own flank. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing her more. Bastion finally received a rework, and rather than tank configuration, his ultimate is now an artillery configuration that allows 3 markers to be placed and then struck by an artillery round. During this, he is completely stationary until the ult ends. They've also switched his turret configuration from being immobile to a moving turret, with less damage and an added timer. His self-heal has been dropped in favor of a single bounce grenade. Bastion's rework I'm a little stuck on. He didn't really feel good or bad. Sometimes it just kind of worked and other times it didn't. I think he's going to fit more into a niche playstyle, and it'll probably stay that way. Soldier's only change was for his ultimate. He basically before used to get like a screen-wide aimbot that required nothing besides holding RT to get some kills. Now that has a circle of effect and it's a lot closer to the crosshair to be activated, so you have to actually look in the direction of the enemy to get the lock-on effect. I found that this change just took away the more frustrating aspect of his ultimate and made it feel like the player was actually, doing something to get the kills. Overall, I think it's just a positive change.
I offer something more.
As far as supports go, Moira's the only healer to really get a large-scale ability change. Her biotic orbs are now separate to one another, meaning they can both be in play at the same time on separate cooldowns. And her new necrotic orb, once making contact with an enemy, applies the weakened effect. This will do 50 damage and lower all their damage dealt by 75%, and this can be used on basically any ult or character. Mercy also received some super jump changes that I'm not a huge fan of. It's basically built on like a build-up charge system. I just didn't think it was as good as the old one. And Zen now has a super kick where if you melee, you'll knock enemies back and do additional damage. I think that just is good. I don't know, it helps. So how does Overwatch 2 feel? I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited for the launch of the game, which I wasn't originally, because when I heard that they were getting rid of a tank, I didn't know how to feel. I still kind of stand by the fact that I feel like it should have been 2 tanks and 1 DPS, and not vice versa. But nonetheless, I'm excited to play it, and free to play is definitely the route to go for this game. I think it'll make it a lot more fun to play with your friends. As for me, with my excitement to play, I'm just looking forward to streaming and making content on this game. And if you enjoyed the content in this video, please consider subbing to this channel or stopping by my Twitch stream to see some of that content when the game drops. And thank you for watching.